Hello, I'm Roberto Michel, Senior Editor with Modern Materials Handling, and I'll be moderating this webcast sponsored by Cardex, a provider of automated storage solutions. Today, we're here to discuss the results of a new industry survey that Peerless Research Group conducted for Cardex, which examines what is top of mind for managers and executives responsible for warehousing and DC operations as we head into 2024. We'll be examining what the survey reveals about the leading challenges respondents faced in 2023, what they see coming in 2024, and also discuss the technologies they have in place to overcome some of these challenges. I'm joined today by Christina Dube with Cardex. Welcome, Christina.
Thanks, Roberto. Good afternoon. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let's get right into it then. I'll explain some of the background about the survey, and then Christina and I will go over some top findings. Additionally, for those attending online, should anyone have a question, please ask one using the function for that on the webcast screen. We'll get to those after we wrap up, and if we're not able to get to your question, we'll move that over to Cardex for a response. Okay. About the survey. To learn more about the current and future state of today's order fulfillment operations, Peerless Research Group, we call it PRG, conducted a reader survey on behalf of Modern for Cardex Remstar. This study was in the field in October and into November of 2023 and was administered via email among MMH subscribers. Respondents were pre-qualified as being involved in decisions for warehouse and DC operations. The survey garnered more than 200 responses, which is pretty strong, from a variety of industries and job roles. Respondents were at manufacturing, wholesale, and retail companies in various roles in management, warehousing operations, and logistics. A little bit more about the survey. It was really designed with two basic lines of inquiry. Questions about the current state, what's happening today to give us an idea of the challenges and solutions respondents are currently experiencing, and then future state, what's coming in the next 12 months to get a better feel for what respondents anticipate they'll be dealing with in 2024 and how their priorities are evolving. Again, as mentioned, Christina and I are going to recap the top results, so anyone attending can ask a question, and you're welcome to download the PDF of the survey for more information. So let's get started. On this next slide here, the top challenges, this is an interesting slide. When we ask about current challenges, labor was number one, and on the right, when we asked for that look ahead, the next 12 months, labor was still number one. So that tells us labor availability hurdle is alive and well. So it seems, Christina.
It sure is, yeah. Labor's still the number one challenges that warehouse and DCs are facing, and it's absolutely going to continue into next year, is what this survey is telling us.
And really, if you look at the top five results on either side of that slide, you know, the current challenges in late 2023 and the look ahead to the next 12 months, there isn't a whole lot of change for the very top ones. Labor stays at number one. Supply chain disruptions and shortages sticking around at number two, and increased freight and transportation costs, a big challenge at number three. It's only at number four where we start to see a little bit of divergence when it comes to the look ahead. Customer demands around faster delivery needs is into number four, ahead of space constraints. I think positively about that. It may show respondents are feeling a bit better about inventory levels coming back into a more normal balance that might be at play. Space constraints and, fitting everything into your warehouse is still highly important at fifth. But many respondents are thinking this year is going to be even more challenging when it comes to customer demands for timely delivery. On the right side, when you look ahead, it's also interesting to see that increased order volume is ticking up a few spots. So people are thinking that that volume will be good, and that service level pressures will be tighter than ever. What do you see here, Christina, in terms of your interactions with customers?
Yeah, the survey is really echoing what we're seeing as well. You know, labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, space constraints. These aren't just like operational hurdles anymore people are trying to get over, but we're really seeing they're actually being used to accelerate the adoption of automation technologies in the warehousing space. So warehousing and distribution centers are not only looking to automation to solve these challenges, but now they're really using these challenges to cost justify their automation projects. And we're seeing a lot of that.
Okay. We are going to look at another slide here that digs further into the whole labor availability challenge. The survey asked which factors are contributing to labor inavailability, if you will. A strong majority report they simply can't find enough people, enough labor, or secondarily that labor is unreliable, not showing up when scheduled. So we have a big chunk of respondents, like 7 out of 10 range here, indicating that being able to find enough people to carry out warehouse activities is problematic. Maybe wage increases can help some, but only 20% say rates are currently too high to staff adequately. So that there doesn't seem to be an easy fix in terms of just running a warehouse manually in the face of the current pressures. Christina, your thoughts here?
Yeah, we're seeing more and more companies that really are specifically automating to combat this labor challenge. We have a customer in Melrose Park, right outside Chicago, Bristol Hose, and they implemented our solutions just recently specifically because they could not find enough labor to manage their manual fulfillment process. So it's a story we're hearing over and over again, right? As volume increases, existing labor simply can't effectively manage the increased pressures on the order fulfillment operations. So they need to hire more people, and quite frankly, they simply can't find enough. So we're seeing companies just like Bristol Hose, so can't find enough labor and they need to scale their fulfillment operations. They're really turning to automation to enable the labor that they actually do have to keep up with their growth.
Would you say then, Christina, that for many of your users, this automation isn't just this swap out of people for automation? They're hoping to reassign staff they do have, maybe eliminate some low value added work elements and just go from there?
Yeah, I think maybe 15, 20 years ago, warehouses were really attempting to use automation as a pure replacement for people to save overhead costs and, boost the bottom line a bit. But that's really not the case any longer, especially with this current labor shortage and the increased costs that we're all seeing here in this survey, right? Warehouses are not looking to replace the labor they have. They're desperately need the labor that they have in place. They're really just looking to support the labor that they have. So this is exactly what Bristol Hose did, right? When they implemented automation, they had no intention of reducing their labor force. They had 3 people constantly picking orders every minute of their shift, and they were just struggling to keep up. So their goal was to make those 3 people more efficient. And they have, right? So now they have 3 vertical lift modules. Those 3 pickers are now done with all of the order fulfillment. And that increased, right? So they've been able to handle that growth, and they're done by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And now they have time for equipment maintenance, auditing production assemblies, a couple of additional QA checks. So they're just supporting the labor that they already have in place. And we're also seeing customers use our multilingual feature in our software to expand their labor pool, which I found interesting. I was talking to one of our business development people just the other day. Our software has the ability for the language to be set by user. So it's really allowing companies like Bristol Hose to access a wider labor pool and include people whose primary language maybe isn't English. So the survey absolutely is revealing that warehouses and distribution managers expect this labor crisis to continue, but we're also seeing on our side some really creative solutions to try to overcome that challenge that they know is not going anywhere in 24.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's move on to another facet of the survey here, inventory strategy, just in time or JIT versus, just in case. The survey asked about overall inventory approach, and most companies say they use a blend of just-in-case and just-in-time practices. Supply chain disruption last 3 years, it really just put JIT principles to the test. And I think as a whole, industries are still trying to rebalance their inventory levels, get them back to kind of more of a pre-COVID normalcy as much as possible. And so I think people in operations are under pressure to exert tighter inventory control, improve turns, and as much as they can, even though, maybe these inventories aren't back to pre-COVID normalcy pattern quite yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. At the start of COVID, there was a huge kind of shift to just in case with all of the disruption in the supply chain. And we've seen, the supply chain has gotten better for sure, but people are still facing disruptions and shortages. So I think inventory flexibility is really key. And I think that's what this survey is showing here, is people are trying to use a mix of both, right? So it's no longer viable to just run a blind just in case inventory strategy as everyone kind of adopted with COVID. Now with space, inventory, and freight costs increasing, it's not cost effective. So I think you're absolutely right. People are kind of shifting to be a little bit more fiscally responsible, I would say. But I think what this survey question is really revealing is the ideal solution is to be prepared with technology that really supports both just in time and just in case, and allows you to kind of seamlessly transition to both. With the flexible system, right, if inventory gets scarce, you have the space to store a little bit more than your just-in-time quantity dictates. And when inventory, the supply chain is plentiful, you get the accuracy and the control to know how much inventory you have and exactly where it is in your JIT strategy. So survey is really revealing that people are gravitating towards that balanced approach to hedge a little with their inventory, but still be really financially responsible.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that when it comes to inventory control, it really helps to be data driven, no matter what solution you have in place. And, that involves some master data management and making sure that the inventory setup you have in your systems is good. So it's not just a matter of knowing the locations and levels, where things are, but also factors like the weights and dimensions you have, SKU velocities. You have to understand your velocities of different SKUs and where it's best to slot or store specific SKUs. I could probably do a whole webinar on data-driven inventory management, but for sure, I think to kind of get just in case leaned out, it helps to have better inventory data. Let's move on then. Of course, this slide here, the priorities in 24, asking people to look ahead. That's a highly interesting slide. And it just speaks to the whole range of challenges involved in having a first-class DC operation. For sure, you need to be fast and efficient, but look at that first finding: reduce errors in order processing, improve order accuracy is the top thing, the top challenge. So people do need to be faster, have achieved better throughputs, but they also need to be accurate, and that really sticks out here in this finding. I think that's why you're seeing some leading companies talking about tracking a perfect order metric that measures a blend of factors, not just speed or rate, but how complete an order is it damage-free, et cetera. They look at all of that. So what do your customers tell you about some of their top challenges, Christina, as you look at this?
Yeah, I think reduce errors in order processing and improving order accuracy. Yeah, it's absolutely a top priority going into next year. As order volume grows, right, accuracy levels become harder to maintain. And they can really have an impact on the bottom line, a pretty major impact that we've seen. We have a customer that just last year implemented one of our automated systems for this very reason. They were managing about 2,400 picks a day. So, not a huge operation, but big enough. And they had a 0.3% error rate when we started talking to them. And 0.3% seems like a low number. How bad could it be, right? Well, when you're picking 2,400 picks a day, it's 7 missed picks a day. All right, well, the average mispick costs you about usually $100 on average, we would say, right? So that's for the customer to return the incorrect part, the cost to re-inventory it. You then have to pick the right part. You've got to reship it, put all the internal paperwork. That doesn't even account for, how irritated and unsatisfied the customer is. But if you're looking at about $100 to fix an error, you've got 7 a day, so you're spending $700 a day to fix mistakes. Say you're working an average, year of 260 working days, it's $182,000 to your bottom line that you're missing out on. So that was justification enough for them, and they put in an automated storage system with some scan verification to get that accuracy up. And they were able to get that error rate down to 0.1%. So just by boosting that accuracy 0.2%, they've saved $130,000 to their bottom line year one. So right now, when every dollar counts, with the cost of freight rising, the cost of inventory rising, it doesn't at all surprise me that on the very top of their list is accuracy. That's a kind of a quick win and a big improvement to the bottom line. That's not super difficult.
Yeah, it just really stands out. Don't forget about the importance of accuracy. But then you look at the other challenges, and they're kind of the evergreen challenges that you might use automation for. Help improve productivity, make better use of available space, just improve picking and handling processes. Usually that means reducing touches or travel. So there's just a lot of good kind of evergreen needs here that you see in this slide. Space utilization, space availability being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually just reading the latest Cushman & Wakefield industry report last week, and overall vacancy rates for industrial space have increased from 3% to 4.7%, and they're expected to go over 5% this year in 24. So trends are indicating that demand for industrial space is decreasing. But even if it rises, past that 5% that's predicted, it's still well below the 15-year average of 6.8. So while there's more space available than there was 2 years ago, that's kind of what everyone said, oh, there's more space. Well, there is, but we have to remember there's still a lot less space than there was 15 years ago. And it's a similar story in the report I read for industrial space for rent as well. So from 2020 to 2022, right, asking rates for rent jumped 13% and then 19% nationally year over year. But then from 22 to 23, they only jumped 7%. So rent for industrial space is expected to continue to moderate, so will rise, but at a lower rate than it has been rising. And it should settle into the mid-single digits this year. But again, while rent increases slow down a bit, the overall increases are still happening, right? Rent's up, the report was saying $6.75 per square foot in 2020 to $8.66 per square foot in 23. So it's still a 28% increase that warehouse and distribution centers are fighting over the last 3 years. So they're absolutely prioritizing better space utilization as a means to avoid the higher cost of space. So it makes sense that this is also one of their top challenges this year for sure, trying to save that cost of having to move or expand their footprint.
Yeah, for sure. It's in there, number 3. Let's move on to that slide on how people are leveraging technology. This is an interesting slide. On the left-hand side, you'll see what they're currently using, and then in the look-ahead aspect, what they're most interested in evaluating, purchasing, upgrading. So the most popular systems currently in use include warehouse management systems, WMSs, warehouse execution systems, and warehouse control system software, which are collectively in use by 54% of companies today. The survey also reported a lot of RF picking in use. Conveyor and sortation systems are widely deployed, close to 50%. Vertical lift modules, vertical buffer modules, and vertical and horizontal carousels are pretty widely used, up in the higher 40%. In terms of which systems, technology, and automation they'd like to evaluate, purchase, or upgrade in the coming 12 months, the green bars on the right, respondents are most interested in implementing or upgrading categories, including voice-directed picking, piece-picking robots and autonomous mobile robots, or AGVs. Other technologies of interest include pick-to-light applications, mini-load, unit-load, shuttle ASRSs, and conveyor sortation. So there are quite a few technologies here with strong evaluation interest. There are differences among them for sure. I'd say what several of them have in common is that they reduce non-value added travel by working on a goods to person principle. And others, like say for pick-to-light, it helps associates be faster and more accurate right at the point of task. Others make use of the vertical space or cube and storage areas. So you can kind of map these technologies to some of the priorities and pain points that people have. Looking at the findings on the right-hand side, those green bars, the survey found that, on the very right-hand side, those circles, the intent to purchase automation, it's pretty strong there at 40%. So I think that overall, people are realizing that the best path forward to overcoming some of these challenges is putting in place some additional technologies. Christina, what are your thoughts on kind of just this overall intent and kind of the outlook for bringing in new systems?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think automation and technology in the warehouse, it's not a nice to have anymore. It's really a need to have. So companies that don't look into this technology to gain these efficiencies, they're not going to solve these challenges that they're seeing this year. And quite frankly, they're going to get passed by. So I think that companies are really not taking a wait and see approach. They're really actively trying to leverage automation to solve these very specific challenges that they're seeing this year. Absolutely.
Okay, well, we've run through some of the top findings from the survey here, and I want to thank you, Christina, for joining me here to recap the study results. We don't have time for questions, a lot of questions, but I do have one that's come in here that I'd like to pose. How can I get the full slide deck for the PRG study? Somebody is asking, Christina.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we have a full report that we've written up. I can launch it here so you guys can just go ahead and download it. So yeah, that has access to everyone.
Okay. Just look at your webcast screens and you should be able to download that complete slide deck. And if you have questions for our sponsor, just contact Christina and Cardex, and they'll look into your needs.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christina, and thank you all for attending. That concludes this.
That's great. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah, it was fun. And thanks for all for attending, and please do download those slides. Thank you.